This video is brought to you by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika. Get ready to smile.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
We are joined today by former Cincinnati Red and, of course, Atlanta Brave World Series champion and a good friend of the channel, Darrel Chaney. Darrel, good to see you.
All right, Tyler Redmond, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
On Deck with Tyler Redmond, folks. Great show.
Thank you, Darrel, and thank you for letting us come into your home today as we remember both Bobby Cox and Ted Turner. You knew both men very well. First off, if you could just speak about both of them and what they meant to you.
Okay, I will. And first of all, I want to thank you for coming here and doing this with me because, you know, guys from my generation kind of get put on the back burner when anything like this goes on because when you've had such success, people focus on the successful times and they don't focus on the failing times. But failures lead to successes, and I'm sure Bobby Cox and Ted Turner would tell everybody that, you know. So what they mean to me is when I was traded from the Reds to the Braves, 5 days later is when it was announced that Ted was buying the Atlanta Braves. And so I didn't know anything about Ted. You know, back then you didn't have Wikipedia and all this kind of stuff to find out about him, so you had to wait to meet him to find out about him. So the first, on the way to spring training, coming down from Cincinnati, we stopped in Atlanta. We had a social event to go to, so I was going to meet Ted. And I went to broadcasting school, and I got a third-class operator's license to be a sports broadcaster, you know, color analyst on TV games and all that. Thought I could continue my baseball career that way. So when I met Ted, I said, "Hey, when I'm done playing shortstop for you, I'll be a broadcaster for you." And you know, Ted was one of those guys. Yeah, sure, no problem. And you don't know if he remembered that or you just blew it off or busy doing other things. And he had so many things going through his mind, you know. And but sure enough, a year after I was done playing, I get a call and he invited me to be the fourth man in the booth with Skip Carey, Pete Van Wern, and Ernie Johnson Sr. So I enjoyed the 2 years that I did that, and we won't go into why I didn't extend that. It was because I got fired, and I don't know why. But I just when I met Ted, I thought, well, this guy is going to be a lot of fun to play for, and I can. You know, I don't know if we have enough time to tell all the stories, but I really do. I really do think that whatever he decided to do, if he didn't know anything about it, he would learn. He would be a quick learner, and he always was a friend of the players. I mean, he wanted you to play cards with him in his room, and when we were on the road, the first year he owned the club, he was with us every day. He was like a player, you know, hung around with us and worked out with us and those kinds of things. So, and then along comes Bobby in 1978 for his first managerial job in the major leagues. And a lot of people don't remember that. Yeah. You know, I remember Bobby from the 90s and 2000s and all those 14 years in a row of winning. And that's why I mentioned earlier the losing kind of makes you better in the long run. But when I first met Bobby in spring training in 1978, Dave Bristol was my manager prior to Bobby. And I have an awful lot of respect for Dave Bristol. Dave was my manager for 2 years in Atlanta. And back in Cincinnati when he was the guy that took me to the big leagues when I was 21 years old. So I always tell Dave Bristol, I got you fired twice, Dave. So I was wondering, you know, who am I going to like this guy or am not? And had heard that, you know, he was a baseball man, and you know, worked his way up through the minor leagues, got a little couple of years in the big leagues, and then went into coaching at a young age, and so I met him, and I could tell right away that this guy knew what he was doing. I mean, you know, I played I played for Sparky Anderson. He's in the Hall of Fame. Dave Bristol, Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. And now Bobby Cox. I got a pretty good feel for what managers can do. And I knew right away he knew what he was doing. And we just didn't have the players that he had starting in 91 and all. But you knew, Bobby Cox knew what he was doing. And I don't know, somebody was asking me the other day, there's 3 things about him that I remember. Number 1, he knew how to win. Number 2, he always had your back. And number 3, he's a Hall of Fame manager. And but you can go on and on. Number 4, he's a great family man, and 8 children, and I miss them all. I miss them all. I don't know. The last couple of weeks we've had to talk about week and a half to talk about Ted and Bobby. It's been a sad time for Braves country, right? But at the same time, I can sit here and say, "Oh man, Ted passed away," and then I can remember one night when we hung out together and how that went and everything, and bring a smile to my face, and the same thing with Bobby.
For sure, and I think that's kind of how everybody in Braves country is. Any video that I've posted about Bobby or Ted this week, whether it be an interview with you or an interview with Leo Mazzoni telling stories, I think everybody just wants to remember the good times and maybe even the bad with both of those guys. With Bobby, for just a second, you mentioned the 3 things that made him great. There was one other that I wanted to mention, and that was all the ejections. Is there an ejection story you remember in the early days of Bobby that maybe wasn't televised and should be remembered?
I think they were all televised. I'm not sure, but yeah, I got one for you. I was playing in Shea Stadium against the Mets. Bobby's our manager, and I scored a run at home plate. I was safe by a mile. Umpire missed a call. Called me out. I had slid and my left foot had gotten between the catcher's legs and on top of the plate before he could get the ball and bring it down and tag me in the chest. I was safe to no end. And when I slid, I kind of grabbed a couple handfuls of dirt as I was sliding in the home plate there. And umpire Ed Montague is his name, called me out. I got up and I said, "What do you mean?" And my hands came open and dirt was flying and it happened to get into Ed Montague's face, and he didn't like that, so he ejected me from the game. Well, Bobby came running out there, and this is what when guys always talk about when the more famous Braves guys, Smoltz and Glavine and Chipper, talk about how he had their back. In the old days when we weren't any good, he still had our back, and he got into Montague's face, and he got ejected too. And so when you get ejected, you gotta leave the field. You got to, a lot of times you go down at the end of the dugout and down the steps and you kind of hide down there. The managers do and all that. So I'm on my way out of there and I was going to go back to the clubhouse. And Bobby was screaming and cussing, and he went into the bathroom just below the first step into the dugout. There's a half bathroom down in there. And he took his fist and he ran it through that toilet tank. And he just shattered that porcelain. Water flying everywhere. He had to call maintenance real quick to come in there and plug that thing up. But Bobby had my back, man. He had my back.
And we've heard a lot of stories like that over the years. That's a great one, stuff that you don't hear behind the scenes things. We've seen Bobby on the field. We know the strategies. We know a lot of that. But what was Bobby like just in a normal day in the clubhouse?
Oh, he was a friend. Always talking to everybody. Whether you were the best player in the team or on the border, encouraged everybody all the time. And he didn't sit down and play cards with the guys in there. He's busy figuring out how he's going to win the game and work on the lineup card and things like that. But he always had a time to say hello to everybody, an encouraging word. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the assistant visiting clubhouse guys, the kids that are, shining the shoes and washing your underwear and things like that. And I remember too in Atlanta, he knew everybody's name on the ground crew. He just was just that kind of guy. And then when I got done playing for him and I was in the broadcast booth. When we traveled on the road, I played racquetball with with Bobby quite a bit. And you could see when he was playing what a competitor he was, because he was a real competitor on that racquetball court, because he and I and Bill Aker, the traveling secretary, and Dave Pursley, our trainer, the four of us played racquetball together on the road, and it was a lot of fun with him. I can also remember when I was a broadcaster, Cindy and I decided to have a 50s party, and we kind of titled it "Where Were You in '62?" So we had it in our garage. We took the cars out. We decorated the garage inside. We had a DJ come, and I invited Bobby, all the broadcast team, and everybody came. So Bobby and Pam come, and they're all dressed up as what they were in '62. You know, he'd have a minor league uniform on or whatever. Ernie Johnson came with a Brave uniform on, and his wife came pregnant, because they were pregnant in '62 with one of the kids. So I got to socialize with them as a non-player, and I really enjoyed that. And you know, when Bobby met Pam, I don't know if anybody's told this story.
I was going to ask you about that.
So we're in Rome, Georgia, at the Rome Mall, signing autographs on the Braves Caravan in I believe it was '78, the first year Bobby was there. And we're signing autographs, and Bobby's a couple seats down from me, and we look across, and there's this really nice ladies' clothing store. And there's a good-looking girl working in there, and Bobby says, "Look at that good-looking woman in there." He says, "I'm going to go introduce myself to her." And so that was Pam. They ended up getting married. So they were married all that time. He met her at the Rome, Georgia Mall in the Braves Caravan.
That just shows, you know, how long you knew him and how long he was a friend to you. And I know he was a friend later in life too. You're wearing the Darrel Chaney Invitational hat on your head. Bobby came and supported that charity, and that's your charity. What did that mean to you that a Hall of Fame manager would take the time to come up to Helen to give back and support you in that way?
It meant everything, and it meant everything to everybody in White County, Georgia, up in Helen, where we have it. You know. At the time, when he first came, he wasn't in the Hall of Fame, but he was getting ready to go in. And I believe he came 2 or 3 years, and then he had his stroke. And one of the interviews, he said, "I'll be here every year as long as I'm able." And I said, "Well, I'm going to remember that." And he would have if he had. It was just, and I had, you know, once he had the stroke, he lived so far away from where I lived, it was hard to see him, and of course you couldn't talk to him because he couldn't talk to you, and I kind of reserved time for the guys that had those great years with him to go and see him at his house when they could, and but you know, I know his memory was right, so I know he remembers some of the things that we did together, but to come to Helen, Georgia, and promote our golf tournament. Now this hat was our 25th anniversary. You know, because you've interviewed him there. I've interviewed him there. He meant an awful lot to the people. And we have this thing, or we used to have this thing where at our golf tournament where we have it's sort of like a Calcutta, where you get a list of all the celebrities that are there, and if you bid the most money to play with somebody, you get the first choice. And of course, I know one year, I think it was, I can't remember the name of the outfit. It could have been our title sponsor, it could have been Big Daddy's Restaurant, but they paid $8,000 to play with Bobby.
Wow.
$8,000 for that little tournament in that little town up there. $8,000. And another year, I think it was $6,000 that our title sponsor may have paid for him. But man, that's the way to make money when you can get a Hall of Famer up there with the reputation that Bobby had. And we're going to miss them. We're going to miss these guys. We really are.
For sure. You mentioned Ernie Johnson, the broadcast team, earlier. About a year ago, Darrel, you handed me a couple of cassette tapes, one of which was a grand slam you hit in Cincinnati. The other was a walk-off homer that you hit in Atlanta. That cassette tape was given to you by Ernie Johnson Sr. It is a walk-off home run.
Shirley pitching, Chaney swinging, there's a drive. Well hit left center field. Way back. This ball is gone. It's gone. And the Braves win on a Chaney homer. Bottom of the ninth. How about that?
Bobby Cox's first ever managerial win. What do you remember about that day, and how special is it to you now with obviously Bobby passing away and always being intertwined with him going forward?
Tyler, that's been special to me ever since I hit it. You know, we had it was 1978, and we had just had 2 really bad years. And it looked like we were fixing to have another one. And, you know, I was playing every day in 76, and I got relegated to the bench in 77. And, you know, it was a lot easier sitting on the bench playing for world championship teams up in Cincinnati than playing for a losing club. So it was hard times. But it was the 4th game of the season. We were 0-3. Bobby's first 3 games was we were 0-3, and San Diego comes to town, and it was a night game, and I believe it was Pat Rocket was playing shortstop. Pepe Frias hadn't gotten there yet, and Bobby inserted. I think he pinch hit for Pat in the 6th or 7th inning, and I went in for defense, and it got around to the bottom of the 9th inning. And we were losing by 1 run, and Barry Bonnell got a base hit with 2 outs. And I'm due up. And in most situations like that, in my career, I was pinch hit for, especially right-handed. But Bobby showed a little confidence in me, either that or he didn't have anybody left on the bench to hit. But I think it was one of these things that Bobby does. He thought I could at least get a base hit, and so he let me hit. And Bob Shirley was a pitcher for the San Diego Padres, and I hit a ball in left center field, and I'm not kidding you. I think it landed almost in the same spot that Hank Aaron's 715th landed. I really do. It was out that way anyway. Yeah. I never got the ball. I don't think Bobby ever got the ball. Back then, you couldn't get the ball back and bring it all in and all that stuff. But I hit that walk-off home run, and for Bobby Cox's first major league victory. And I'll tell you right now, you can 2 weeks after you air this, you could say, okay, here's a little trivia question. Who hit the walk-off home run for Bobby Cox's first ever major league win? And nobody will ever get it. They'll guess Gary Matthews, Jeff Burroughs, Dale Murphy. They'll guess Phil Niekro before they guess me. They'll guess a pitcher before they guess me. They won't guess me. And it's a great trivia question. I got a couple great trivia questions, but that's a real good one, because I'll be going around and they say, you did this and you did that, and I said, for a guy that had maybe a less than mediocre career, I had a couple neat things happen to me: the grand slam home run, and then the walk off for Bobby Cox's first win. And I'll say to the person that's bringing this stuff up to me, I'll say, well, how about this one? Do you know who big baseball fan are you? Oh yeah, big Braves fan. Are you a big Braves fan? Who hit the walk-off home run to win Bobby Cox's first game? And they'll scratch their head and they'll start throwing out names, and they never bring my name up. It's really funny. A lot of fun to do that.
Going on right now at Glenn Smith and Opelika.
Both Chevy Silverado and Traverse are ready for you. Get supplier pricing today on all new Chevy Silverado 1500s with up to $13,500 off. Or get a loaded Traverse, the roomy Chevy SUV with third row seating, and enjoy up to $6,000 off.
Buy today and make no payments for 120 days.
Smart people from all over the USA buy from Glenn Smith Chevrolet.
Get ready to smile.
A lot of people these days say that the Braves operate according to the Braves way. How much do you think the Braves way is more so the Bobby Cox way? How much did he instill in terms of the way the Braves operate today?
Yeah, I think there's actually 3 guys that created the culture of the Braves organization as it is today: Ted, Bobby, and John Schuerholz.
Agreed.
That's the way I see it. That's the way I see it. And John Schuerholz, I don't know if he handpicked Alex Anthopoulos or not, but to me, he's a clone of John Schuerholz. So I think this culture is going to remain. So yeah, all 3 of those guys have set the tone, both on the field, or the way they handle themselves on the field, how they wear their uniforms, how they conduct themselves in interviews, how they sign autographs, all that just kind of flows into appealing to the Braves fans, and the Braves fans since 1990 have been just coming in, man. And the merchandise they must sell nowadays, these crossover jerseys that they're coming out with now, they say you can't get them already. They're already giving the shoes and everything.
New shoes are gone.
They're all being sold out, and I mean, man, the way they make money nowadays is unbelievable. But when it comes to the culture of the Braves and the success of the Braves, that longevity, it may be a historic franchise all the way back in the Boston days. You know, I don't know. I wasn't alive back then. But from what I've seen, from when Bobby got there, then he left. Remember when Bobby Cox got fired as a manager after 4 years, and they brought in Joe Torre? Some sports writer said to Ted, "Well, what kind of guy are you looking for to replace Bobby Cox?" He's like, "I'm looking for a guy just like Bobby." I'm thinking, what? He did. He said something like that. And sure enough, you know, being the bell goes off and he brings Bobby back as general manager, and all this other stuff happens. So those guys to me are the foundation of the organization's culture, way of doing business, way of playing the game, way of representing the organization, way of representing the city. How well the Braves handled. This is one of the things that stuck in my craw for a while when the commissioner of baseball took the All-Star game away from Atlanta. That just, for no reason. There's no reason. There was no reason for that to happen. And the way the Braves handled that with class, not knowing if they were going to get the All-Star game back because they fell out of the rotation. But that showed me something. I mean, they could have moaned and groaned and cried and complained, and maybe deep down inside they were, because the commissioner of baseball, Robert Manfred, who I'm not really much of a fan of because he hasn't left the game alone. I'm the old school guy. I wish he had just left it alone. When they did that and the Braves responded the way they did, really showed me the class of that organization that it is today.
Well, and two, I mean, there's a lot of money on the line with an all-star game coming to your city. And like you said, the fact that they took it on the chin and walked away says a lot about them.
When you have an all-star game and all that money that you mentioned, and it's not just the Braves, the city, it's the ground crew, it's the people selling hot dogs and beers and everything. It's just like they gave up on these people that look forward to the income that they were going to make, whether big or small, and saying, you know, I was a participant in that All-Star game. I don't know why they did what they did, but it happened. And when they came back and had it, and I'm glad Manfred did that, they brought it back when the next year, I believe it was, or 2 years later, and had it in Atlanta, and Atlanta put on a show, which they'd have done in the first place. And it just, the way they handled that whole situation. I'm proud to say that I played for that organization, even though when I played for them, we weren't very good. But, you know, I'm an Atlanta Braves alumni. And I try to speak highly of the ball club wherever I go. Sometimes I got to say, yeah, we weren't very good. We tried to win. We had some really good players. We made a lot of trades to try and win, but we didn't. So we got to live with that. But we can still say, yep, I'm a former Atlanta Brave, and proud to say it.
Absolutely. You mentioned after Bobby Cox's first stint, Ted Turner fires him in the press conference. They go together to the press conference, which you'd never, ever see. It's kind of a unique thing. What does it say that the guy that replaced him was Joe Torre?
Right.
The Braves have had a lot of great managers, including Snitker most recently. I think they have a great manager now, Walt Weiss. But Bobby Cox, Joe Torre, Dave Bristol, a lot of great baseball guys, even further back in history. What does it say about Bobby Cox that he is unquestionably the greatest manager in Atlanta Braves history?
Well, it says a lot. When you look at, all the great players that played, I'll go back to the Milwaukee days with Matthews and Hank and all those guys, and the guys that managed those clubs. As great as they were, they didn't win as many games as Bobby did over the years. And it's really funny when you add up all of Bobby's wins, remember, there was about at least 120, maybe 150 that came, more than that came in the late 70s and the first couple of years in the 80s. They didn't start winning 100 games a year until 90 and all that going on there. But those other ones added up too. So when you look at a guy's Hall of Fame career and he's got that many victories, you take the good with the bad. I mean, he won a lot of games with a bad team.
Yeah,
if you think about it. I remember in '76 when I first got to the Braves, Dave Brillson was our manager, and I just was traded down from the Reds, where we won the World Championship, and we won 106 games. And I played for the Braves. Next year, we lost 102. That was like falling off the roof of my house. I just went from the top to the bottom, just like that. And I'm thinking, why can't we win more games? We tried. We just didn't. But Bobby Cox's legacy, what's he, fourth all time, I believe, right? Man. And you're not going to see that many games won anymore by managers because they don't hang around that long anymore.
Well, the turnover is really high, and like you said, there's not. I mean, it could always happen, but it doesn't seem like in today's game there's going to be a guy like a Bobby that comes and becomes beloved by an organization and trusted by an organization to get to the retirement age and still be hanging around.
Yeah. I think you got to be successful in your mid to late 30s in the managerial role to get to the big leagues and start managing the big leagues at that age, because then you can have some longevity. You take Walt, as good as Walt is doing, and I think he's a perfect fit, fits right in. But he's 60, 61,
he's up there,
61 years old, so I don't think he'll be managing for 25 years or 30 years. I mean, that's into his 90s. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be something. But yeah, I mean, Bobby, I think, will forever be, even in 100 years, we're going to look back on Bobby as like, man, that was something special back then, right? As much as we're talking about Bobby, of course, we also lost Ted Turner the past week. I wanted to talk about Ted. You tell a great story. I know it's not a fond memory, but it is a great Ted Turner story. Ted, of course, a very unique individual. There's not anyone, I think, like him. Not only in baseball, but in pop culture, he was an icon. Tell me the story, as you always have, about him getting on the PA system middle of a game.
Yeah, this is in '76. It was late in the season, maybe August. School was in, and so that took away a few fans, but not many, because we weren't drawn very well because we were playing so bad. And Ted had access to a microphone right outside the dugout, and then during the seventh inning stretch, we're on the field, throwing the balls, infield back in, and pitchers warming up, and Ted gets on the PA system. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen," he says, "I really apologize for the way we're playing." He says, "I'm really sorry." He says, "But to show you how much we want to have you folks back, and everybody that's here tonight, when you go out of here, go back through the gate, stop at the ticket window, and get yourself a rain check, and come to any other game the rest of the season on us." And I don't know if we had 6,000 people in the stands that night or not, but maybe more. I don't know. But Ted stood up, and I'm thinking, can you believe this? This guy is the owner of the club telling everybody how bad we are. It's not that it was a hidden secret or anything. We weren't playing good, but my goodness, we were trying, and Ted didn't have our back that day. That's for sure.
Well, what was, if you can remember, what was the reaction like after? I mean, obviously he's the boss, he's the owner of the team, but what was the reaction like in the clubhouse after that?
It was like we all walked in there when the game was over, and no matter what the score of the game was or when it ended, everything. Everybody walked in the clubhouse and just looked at each other and says, "Can you believe he did that? Can you believe he did that?" And I'm thinking, as I look back on it, yeah, I can believe it now. He did a lot of nutty things, but man, you got to love the guy, because he tried a lot of things. And I don't remember Barry Bonnell saying one time, when Ted managed that one game in Pittsburgh, if we're going to talk about that, but he managed that one game in Pittsburgh. Barry Bonnell said, if Ted would have been able to manage longer, he'd have picked up, he'd have learned how to manage a baseball team. Because everything else that he tried at like that, and he didn't have the experience when he started, he was a fast learner. That would have been something, but of course that was nixed the next day. But that's the kind of guy I think Ted was with just about everything that he tried to do. Once he got going, he got it figured out pretty fast, and he made billions of dollars. I mean,
we're both really good friends with Dave Bristol. You brought up Ted managing for the one day. Of course, that affected our friend Dave in a negative way. Dave was fired and brought back in the span of 2 or 3 days. Tell me that story in its entirety. You were there. Just what was that sequence of events like?
Yeah, I'm a big Dave Bristol fan. I thank him every time I see him for taking me to the big leagues and then for trading me down here and giving me a chance to be an everyday player. So we're going into we've lost 15 games in a row. 15 in a row. I had never experienced anything like that in my life, and so getting ready for the 16th game, I get a call from Dave late morning saying, "Hey, I gotta leave." I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I got let go for 10 days." I said, "What do you mean 10 days? Where are you going for 10 days?" He said, "I don't know. I'm going to go home, I guess." He said, I said, "Who's taking over the team?" He said, "Ted." I said, "Ted Turner." Yeah. So I go down to the lobby, and Dave's kind of hiding behind a palm tree, ready to go catch a cab. Didn't want anybody to see him. And Dave leaves. So I get in the cab and I go to the ballpark, and this is right around noon. And Bill Acree, our traveling secretary, he's already got a jersey number 27 on the back with Turner on it, visiting Turner. I said, "This is going to happen. Ted's going to manage." He said, "I mean, can he do this? I don't even know if it's legal or not." Found out it wasn't, but that's Ted, and Ted he's the owner of the team. He's going to do what he wants to do, and one of the reasons that Ted wanted to do this, he said he wanted to get closer to see what was going on the field and in the clubhouse, and he could have figured that out anyway because he was close to us. He was always in the clubhouse and all that. But anyway, so we're in the game, and but John Candelaria, a good left-handed pitcher for the Pirates, is pitching. I had just come off the disabled list and wasn't playing. And I'm sitting next to Rod Gilbert, my roommate, in the dugout. And we go into the 9th inning, and we're losing 2-1. And I believe Pat Rocket drew a walk. I'm not sure. But somebody's on first base. And Ted says, "Chaney, grab a bat." Now I was a switch hitter, but I wasn't a very good hitter either side. But I had never been asked to pinch hit in my life, right-handed. And Turner says, "Chaney, grab a bat." I looked at my roomie, Rod Gilbert, and I says, "Can you believe this one?" It's just proof that Ted didn't know what he was doing. He's pinch hitting Chaney against Candelaria in a 2-1 game, in the 9th inning. And but you get a chance to do something like that. I wanted to go produce. And I wasn't really trying to make Ted look good at all. I was just trying to make Darrel look good, get a win. We had lost 15 games in a row. So I get up there, and sure enough, I hit this old Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, and the field was a tartan turf field, and it had a rubberized warning track. So it wasn't a very good field. And I hit a line drive to left center field, and it hit the very front edge of the warning track and bounced over the wall. Had it not done that, I would have been easily on third base with a triple, and we would have a tied game. So it ended up being a ground rule double. Bob bounced over the wall, runners on second and third now, and Chuck Tanner was the manager. I mean, when the game was going on, Ted would have a big chew of tobacco in his mouth, because Chuck Tanner had a big chew of tobacco in his mouth. Every time Tanner would spit, I'd look over and Ted would spit, and he'd kind of lean on the dugout the same way Chuck was leaning on the dugout, just trying to, emulate Chuck Tanner so he could see, this is how you do it, this is how you act. So anyway, Chuck Tanner brings in Goose Gossage, second, third, and he strikes everybody out. And we end up we ended up losing our 16th game in a row. And I'm going back into the clubhouse. Ted, of course, pretty boisterous guy. He always, he was pretty loud. You always could hear him. I could hear him in the manager's office in there with the press in there. How'd you like the move I made? You talk about losing the game. How'd you like the move I made out there, putting Chaney in there, man? We almost paid off. He had a double. And how about that move I made, putting Chaney in there? So, yeah, and then, the next day we go to the ballpark and it's all over. Yeah. Ted's gone. He can't do it anymore. And I think Chris Canizero and Vern Benson kind of co-managed the team until Bristol could get back from Andrews, North Carolina. And I admire Dave Bristol coming back. I mean,
yeah, he didn't have to.
He didn't have to. He didn't have to. And I'd have never done what Ted did, but Ted did it. And it's just, here we are talking about it 50 years later.
You mentioned he did a lot of nutty things over the years, and that was certainly one of them. One of my favorite stories is when in '82 they were on a losing streak. They had taken the TP down in left field. Ted decided to put it back, and all of a sudden everything goes well. They go on to win, the division. But all the crazy promotions, just a very unique guy. But I'll ask you again, just some of the nutty things, some of the things that we wouldn't think about today, just back then, things that Ted would do. Do you remember anything?
Goodness sakes.
We got time. I want to hear them.
We got the Atlanta Braves Olympics. We had Ted had everybody. We had one guy one time that he had the great Walinda walk across the stadium on a wire. And that only brought like 10,000 people in.
That's crazy.
There's people, they still want to watch baseball. And one day I'll never forget, he had this guy, it was called The Great Escape Artist or something. And they had him hanging upside down from a crane, put right outside the first base dugout. He was hanging upside down from a crane in a straitjacket. And the guy could not get out of it. They ended up having to lower him down to the ground. But the one, we were playing the Phillies. And so we had these pre-game Olympics and Farm Day where you're milking cow competition, and Gene Garber was doing that. But we had this one Olympic event. I remember the ostrich races too. Ted ran. Yeah. He had the broadcasters race ostriches. They were ride them, right? And you see Skip Carey on an ostrich. Gee whiz, was that funny? So anyway, we got the Phillies in town, and we got the Braves Olympics, and we had all kinds of contests. One of them was a tobacco spitting contest. Back then, everybody chewed tobacco, right? And so, well, who's our contestant going to be? Because they put a tarp down from the pitching mound all the way to home plate, plastic tarp, and you had to turn around like 2 or 3 times like a shot putter, and then you spit towards home plate, and the spit that landed the closest to home plate was going to be the winner. I think Garber won it, and I'm trying to remember. I think he played against Dick Ruthven, who ended up playing for us for a while. So the one that really got me though was Ted's got a Braves uniform on. At least he had a jersey on it because I remember the picture. And the contest was take a baseball and roll it down the third base line to home plate. The Phillies had to do that, and we were the first base dugout, and we had to roll one from home plate. From first base to home plate. And Ted he put himself in this race. So we got Tug McGraw from the Phillies over there, going to do it for the Phillies. And so Ted, as competitive as he was, they blow the whistle and here they go. And this did not draw any more fans either. Ted is working hard with that ball. Boy, he's going like this, and he's rolling and he finds out he's got to get his forehead more in there instead of just his nose. And he's rolling away, and he's down in all fours, and he's digging and going, and Tug's just kind of ticking along. He knows Ted's going crazy, and so Tug's like, I'm not even going to play this thing. I'm just going to let him go. When Ted got to home plate, he won, and he stood up, and he had blood from the top of his forehead all the way down his nose. There's a great picture of him out there in one of the books that a guy wrote. Blood coming all the way down across his lips and down his chin from rolling that ball. And Ted says, yeah, it was a crazy time. He says, but I won. I won. And yeah, he did. He did. Those Olympic things were crazy.
Well, one thing about Ted is he really did live life to the fullest, whether it be baseball, cable news, professional wrestling. When you look back, a lot happened after your playing days with Ted. He did a lot of other business ventures that really took off. Could you ever have imagined that Ted would be this media icon, and have all of these accolades and what a history and what a life of Ted Turner?
I didn't know that he would end up being the largest landowner of a U.S. citizen and all that. When he was building his empire through TBS and all, he had a couple of properties in South Georgia where he'd take guys hunting and fishing, and of course he always took us. And I thought back then, well, that's nice. You own a ball club. You got yourself a couple private places here. You can go hunting. I went hunting with him one time. We all had to spend a day or a half a day hunting with Ted. Well, it wasn't you had to, you wanted to. And Ted was a pretty good hunter and shot. But on this one piece of property he had, we were hunting quail, and they were like fenced in quail. We had dogs pointing the quail out, and I'm hunting with Ted this one morning, and the birds aren't getting up. They're just staying tight. And Ted says, the birds won't fly, and the dogs are still, and they're pointing, and we know where the birds are. So Ted walks up to those birds, and he tried to kick them and get them going, and finally they all take off, and Ted goes to shoot one, and the bird hadn't gotten that far from his barrel, and Ted shot it. And there was nothing left of the bird. I mean, we were eating them for lunch. We couldn't eat the rest of the birds. And so when you look back at those kind of things and then think about what has he done since then? Not only did he own those properties in South Georgia, gosh, he bought up most of Montana and New Mexico, and I think he owned a bunch of property still maybe in Chile. And then he became the preservationist with the buffaloes, and man, he just got to be really, really huge. And I think they're going to make a movie out of this Ted Turner thing. It may make a movie out of the whole thing we're talking about, with Bobby and all these guys in there. But with Ted, there's movies out there of all these Montana shows and river runs through it and things like that. Ted was an avid fly fisherman, and I could see them making a movie of Ted with what he has done in his life and the impact he's had worldwide. I think it'd be a pretty good movie. And if they want to use a Darrel Chaney character in there, I'll be glad to step in for a little bit.
Yeah, you had a lot of key moments. I said yesterday to somebody that I thought there could be a Bobby Cox movie too. Just a storied life, and they're both just unique figures. Not afraid to voice their opinions, whether it be on a PA system or whether it be to an umpire face to face in Bobby's case. But obviously, Braves country's lost just another two really important people to their history. Darrel, I want to thank you for taking the time and again letting me come here to speak with you about two of your friends. And I hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have.
I sure have, and I appreciate you coming. I mean, I miss them both already, and because I go back 50 years with them, and it's they both lived really good lives. They both lived really good lives, and it's just a reminder that we don't know when our last breath is going to be, so we got to be ready to meet the Lord. And those guys. I've seen these pictures already out there of them walking into heaven and their
Field of Dreams,
kind of stuff, walking through the corn and all that. All really deservingly so. So I just keep their families in your prayers, and let's hope that their legacies never go away.
For sure. Darrel, before we get out of here, I want to give you a chance to plug United Way of White County very quickly.
United Way of White County, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, my hat I got on here. I thought I'd wear it to give us a little boost. We just had our 25th anniversary of our Darrel Chaney Invitational Golf Tournament, which raises money for 16 agencies in White County, Georgia. Arguably the poorest county in the state, if not the poorest, one of the poorest. So the money there goes a long, long way. It's a celebrity golf tournament. The celebrities are invited to bring their spouses up, and while we're playing golf, the spouses go up hiking in the mountains, wine tasting, all kinds of shopping and things like that. And we've held it every year. Next year will be April 19th and 20th. Excuse me, it'll be April 18th, 19th, and 20th. We've turned it into a 3-day event because on Sunday the 18th, starting after church at noon, our silent auction starts, and that silent auction goes for 3 days. And so we're looking really forward to that tournament again, the 26th year. I've got a meeting coming up here to go over the good and the bad of what we did this year. But we gained a lot of support over the years, and we've had a lot of guys like Bobby Cox, Phil Necro. And I'll tell you how it brings back memories to all these celebrities that I get to rub elbows with all these years. Since I started this tournament, or we started this tournament 25 years ago, 27 celebrities have passed away. Yeah. And of course, Bobby, Phil, Tommy Novus, great football. A lot of them came to our tournament and helped us raise money for United Way of White County. So April 18th, 19th, and 20th in 2027.
Looking forward to it, Darrel, and I'll be happy to support every year for sure. And thank you for all your support of me. I don't get to say that enough, but Darrel is one of the biggest reasons that I get to do what I do, and I will always appreciate you, Darrel. Thank you for doing this.
All right, Tyler. Thank you, sir.
Ted Turner right here. Ted, come on in. This is your first one. You said the Braves were going to be in the World Series when you took the ball club over in 1976, but that's when you had guys like me playing for you. You're going to be pretty happy right now.
Are we live?
We're live.
Hi, everybody out there on Superstation Land. Thanks a lot for viewing, and hopefully we'll be able to televise the playoffs as the judge in New York votes for us tomorrow morning.
Well, I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, there's not a finer guy that's ever played the game, managed the game, and been around the game. It's been a pleasure to have played for him, and we're very, very fortunate up here in the North Georgia Mountains to have a guy of this quality and caliber to be involved in our event. So, Bobby, we appreciate you being here. Wish Pam could make it. Maybe some other time she can come, but thanks so much for being here.
Well, it's my pleasure, Darrel, and count on me for the next 10 years.
Whoa, we won't forget that. That's Bobby Cox.
Baseball fans, make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. As always, thank you for your support.